Hi.
Hi there. Welcome back to English for Specific Purposes. We are your hosts. I'm Mr. Daryl.
And I'm Miss Tathia. მოგესალმებით. კეთილი იყოს თქვენი დაბრუნება ჩვენს ტელესკოლაში. მე თათია ვარ, ეს კი დერილია. Mr. Daryl, what is the topic of today's lesson?
Something as equally exciting as last week.
It's technology,
That's
right?
That's
Okay, very interesting. We have to talk about technology again, but from the different point of view, right?
You know, there's a lot of different types of technology for entertainment. Video games are big in the world today. It's a big industry.
Agree. But before we move on to the lesson, I think that we have to look at our agenda.
Of course. We will start with an introduction. We will discuss a few things, have a little conversation, move on to the vocabulary that you will need for the reading. From there, we will look at the grammar and try to summarize at the end with some homework.
Okay. ვიდრე უშუალოდ გაკვეთილზე გადავიდოდეთ, მოდით ჩვენი გაკვეთილის გეგმას გადავხედოთ. გაკვეთილი დაიწყება მცირე შესწავლით, შემდეგ შევისწავლით ახალ სიტყვებს, ამის შემდეგ წავიკითხავთ ტექსტს, შემდეგ გავაკეთებთ გრამატიკულ დავალებებს, შემდეგ შევაჯამებთ გაკვეთილს და დავასრულებთ საშინაო დავალებით. Let's get started. So, what we are talking about today? We are talking about technology, right? So, let's talk about the positive effects of technology, of integrating technology in everyday life.
As we've mentioned before, it's a labor-saving device.
Yes, I remember it from the previous lesson that there are lots of labor-saving devices which make our life easier. Okay.
We can also be more creative with technology because it makes things easier for us, so we can start to think in new ways to do things.
Yes, and I think that communication has become much easier, right?
You're right.
And we also read at the previous lesson we read a text where we found out that technology can be used in education a lot, so it has made the process of education much easier and productive.
Hopefully,
right?
it's making kids a little bit more eager to learn, being in front of their favorite television screens and computer screens.
Yes, and we have blended learning, so it can be adapted or to any person with any special needs, I think, right?
Okay. What a useful tool.
Yeah. Okay. Now I think that it's time to move on to the vocabulary we have. Let's look at the first set of vocabulary and let's see what we have. The first word we have is data. Data is a noun, and in Georgian it means მონაცემები, ინფორმაცია. How would you define this word, Mr. Daryl?
Well, it was a great word, and the modern world runs on data. So it's information that's collected by various means in order to help with the decision-making process. So, yeah.
Okay, so data is a noun, and in Georgian it means მონაცემები, ინფორმაცია. And we have a very good example here. The data was or were collected by various researchers. So researchers usually collect data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what is the next word, Mr. Daryl?
It's a verb, and it is to process. To process.
To process is a verb, and in Georgian it means დამუშავება. And I think that we can process data. Am I right, Mr.
Yes, definitely. You can process data. What happens is you do a particular set of operations on it. So you take it up in steps to achieve some goal or aim.
Okay. So to process, it's a verb, and in Georgian it means დამუშავება. And here is an example. All data was processed on this machine. Okay. And the next word is protection. Protection is a noun, and in Georgian it means დაცვა. How would you define that word, Mr. Daryl?
It's a good word. It's the condition of staying safe somehow. Staying safe or staying away from harm.
Okay, so protection is a noun, and in Georgian it means დაცვა. And here is an example. The protection of the environment must be our first priority today. Yes, we should protect the environment, and the protection should be the priority, right?
And hopefully technology can help us with that goal.
It's a question whether it can help or
You're right,
hinder.
Yeah. Could make it worse.
Okay, now what's the next word, Mr. Daryl?
The next word is a noun, resolution.
Resolution
Yeah.
is a noun, and in Georgian it is გადაჭრა, მოგვარება, პრობლემის. Okay, how would you define that word, Mr. Duriel?
It's the process of solving or finishing up a process.
You're right. So resolution is a noun. In Georgian it means გადაჭრა, მოგვარება პრობლემის, and we have an example here. It was a successful resolution to the crisis. So we need resolutions when we are in the middle of crisis, right?
We don't want things to be open-ended and continuing on and on and on. You want to resolve things, finish them up.
Okay. And what is the next word, Mr.
Well, it's a very interesting word. It's a kind of a modern word. It's a technophobe. Technophobe.
Technophobe is a noun, and in Georgian it means technophobia. Do we call people who are not good at technology, who are afraid of technology, technophobes or not?
Precisely. The second part, being afraid of technology. It's in the name, phobia. Someone who's afraid of technology or is not comfortable
with
around technology.
Okay, so technophobe is a noun, and in Georgian it means technophobia. And here is an example. Even technophobes will find this new software simple to use. I think that this is essential, okay? So technology should be even easy to use for technophobes, right?
You know what? My grandmother is a bit of a technophobe.
Yeah,
she's not
really?
very comfortable around technology.
Okay, my grandmother too. Okay. And I think that we have finished with the first set of vocabulary, and it's time to practice, right? So can I be the first to try?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
I know you love these parts, so let's go.
Yeah.
It took my brain time to, here's the space, something, the fact that I was free to leave.
Okay, let me think. I think that I need a verb here, so I would choose the verb process here.
Very good.
And I'm right. So it took my brain time to process the fact that I was free to leave. Now I'll read the sentence and you'll try. The computer verified that then there is a blank space, was loaded correctly. What would you choose for this sentence?
There's a few clues in here. The computer for one thing and loaded for another. So if there's a computer and it's loading something into the computer, I would say it has to be data.
And you're right, of course. The computer verified that the data was loaded correctly. Now it's my turn.
Here you go. Here's your sentence. The company offered a reasonable something.
I think that the company can offer a reasonable resolution.
That's what they...
I'm right and I'm right.
Excellent, yes.
Okay. Now it's my turn to read. It urges the government to ensure that proper data, then there is a blank space, standards are enforced. So what do you think can go in the gap?
Well, if the government's afraid of cyber attacks, they would need proper data protection standards.
And you're right. Okay. Data protection is really, really important for a lot of companies. Right?
It's becoming more important, I think.
Due to this cyber attacks, right?
Yeah, and hackers and so on.
Okay. And final one is the easiest part. I will just say the sentence.
Yeah.
So some are technophobes who cannot cope with modern gadgetry. Okay, so if you cannot cope with modern gadgetry, you are called technophobe.
And you're left behind. You can't participate in the modern world if you're not technologically savvy, as we say.
Yes. Okay, and I think it's time to move to the second set of the vocabulary.
Which is?
Because we are going to read a text, and to read a text we need to know some of the words to make it easier for us to understand the text, right?
Yeah, we do need these words to help understand the text better.
Okay, now let's look at the first word we have, and the first word we have is recognition. Recognition is a noun, and in Georgian it means amotsnoba. How would you define that word, Mr. Duriel?
It has different meanings, of course, but with our technological focus of today, it means when a computer can process information that's given to it and understand what the information is saying.
Okay, so recognition is a noun, and in Georgian it means amotsnoba. And here we have an example. They have installed text recognition software. Very useful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the next word, Mr. Duriel?
It is a noun, and it is detection. Detection.
A detection is a noun, and in Georgian it means აღმოჩენა, გამოაშკარავება. Detection. Would you define the word in English, Mr.?
Yes, you can possibly guess. It's connected to detective, so in that sense, you are trying to find something out. You're trying to discover something
new. Right. The detection is a noun, and in Georgian it means აღმოჩენა, გამოაშკარავება. And here is an example. Early detection of the cancer improves the chances of successful treatment. So if any disease is detected at the early stage, I think that it's much better, right?
Yes, and we need technology for that.
And we definitely need technology for that. And the next word is effort. Effort is a noun, and in Georgian it means მსწავლობა. And how would you define that word in English, Mr. Dero?
Effort is a physical or mental activity that is needed to achieve something.
We usually make lots of effort to achieve something, right?
Yeah, although labor-saving devices can help with the effort.
Okay, so effort is a noun, and in Georgian it means მსწავლობა. And here is an example. A considerable amount of time and effort has gone into the project. Yeah, when you are just implementing or carrying out some kind of project, you need a lot of effort, and it needs a lot of effort and hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what is the next word, Mr. Dero?
It's a noun. Privacy. Privacy.
Privacy is a noun, and in Georgian it means კონფიდენციალურობა. How would you say that how would you define that word in English?
Well, it's something that we all love, of course. We all like to keep our privacy. Keeping your private information and your secrets and relationships secret.
Here we have an example. The new law is designed to protect people's privacy, which is very important because very often privacy is violated, right? Can we say like that?
Yeah, by hackers and by all sorts of cyber attacks.
Okay. Now let's move on, and the next word is creepy. Creepy is an adjective, and in Georgian it means sashineli, satsageli. How would you define that word, Mr.?
It's an interesting word, creepy. When something's strange or slightly frightening.
Okay, so creepy is an adjective, and in Georgian it means sashineli, satsageli, and here we have a very good example. I got a real creepy feeling on the way over there, as if someone was watching me. So when you have the feeling that someone is watching you, it's a really creepy feeling, isn't it?
Yes, and as well, when you're in a house that you think is haunted or might have a few ghosts, we have this creepy feeling that the house is haunted.
Yeah. And I think that we have come to the part when we have to read the text. But before we read the text, let's have a little bit of a discussion. What do you think? Does the development of technologies threaten the privacy of individuals?
Unfortunately, yes. There's no way around it. The more technology becomes prevalent in our lives, the less privacy we have, because everything is online somewhere. All your information is somewhere online, whether it's banking information or passwords, and it's all at the mercy of hackers and other cyber attackers.
Yeah, you know, I was surprised to find out when you are on social media, for example, when you're using social media, I think that you are tracked there too, because they always know what interest you've got or what you are interested in or what you are looking for example. And I think that companies use this information a lot, because once I was searching for something to buy and I visited one of the Facebook pages, and then it turned out that on my feed, I could see the products of the same type from different companies. So I think that I guess that the information about me was accessible for companies. And now I think that we have to read the text and find out more about what kind of threats we are facing, okay? So facial recognition technology is increasingly being used in many places in the United States and overseas. Such systems use machine learning tools to scan faces in an attempt to recognize particular individuals. Many police agencies across the world have used facial recognition technology to search for and help catch criminals. The technology has also been used at some US airports to help confirm the identity of passengers and get them on flights. It's also used to unlock phones and other electronic devices, and in some cases, even cars. Now, a similar technology known as facial detection is entering a new field, the business of advertising. Facial recognition technology is meant to identify a specific individual. Facial detection systems aim to protect the presence of a person and try to predict some facts about them. That's what we were talking about, right?
This is, I suppose, a good part of technology, protection.
Yeah.
Now, businesses use cameras set up inside the stores of the public area. The cameras scan the faces of individuals and predict their age and their sex. Some systems are also designed to judge a person's emotions. That information can then be used to target people with real-time advertisements on video screens during their visit to the store. One facial detection system developed by a company called Mood Media aims to judge a person's happiness or fear level. Businesses could use such information to get real-time reactions from people as they look at products or video ads in the store. Such a system could be used as part of a company's efforts to test the popularity of specific products.
Right, and now let's move on to the next section. Another company, Cineplex Digital Media, showed off a camera-powered system designed for use in retail business, on the street or at bus stops. The company says its product can detect things like whether someone is wearing eyeglasses or has facial hair. That information could then be used to target those people with ads for new glasses or shaving equipment. Some privacy groups have criticized the use of such facial detection systems. Pam Dixon heads the World Privacy Forum, a not-for-profit group that researched privacy issues. The creepy factor here is definitely a 10 out of 10, she told the AP. Dixon added that the technology could lead to some discriminatory methods. For example, a business could raise the price of a product or service based on a person's age, or it could target a person with an ad for an antidepressant drug if the individual appears to have a sad facial expression. We should not be gathering the emotional state of anyone, Dixon said. Supporters of the technology say it could improve the buyer's experience by drawing attention to products they might like or by offering them special deals.
Here we see some of the disadvantages of too much technology. It can start to read too much information from you, your emotional state, your psychological state.
Even emotional state, which I think it's really creepy.
You don't want people to know that.
Okay. Now I think that it's time to check how well we remember and how well we understood the text. And for that we have an exercise. We have statements, and we have to identify whether the statements are true or false. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I want you to read the statement, and I will try and see how well I remember the text.
Okay, let's start. AI cameras have been used in police investigations in the US alone.
No, I wouldn't agree. It's a false statement because I remember that we read many police agencies across the world have used facial recognition technology to search for and help catch criminals. So it's not only in the US, but in many other countries. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I will read the statement. You will try to guess. AI cameras used in advertising are not the same as facial recognition cameras.
You know what? I'm going to say, is it false, Ms. Thათία?
No, you are not right. It's true because we read facial recognition technology is meant to identify a specific individual. Facial detection systems aim to detect presence of a person and try to predict some facts about them. So there's like a slight difference, right?
I should have read those texts better.
Yes. Okay, now I will try.
The information gathered by facial detection cameras is used to send individual customers videos after their visit to the shop. Do you think that's true or false?
I'm sure it's false because I remember that we read the cameras scan the faces of individuals and predict their age and sex. I think that we have finished with the text and it's time for grammar. And what is the topic of today's grammar, Mr. Darryl?
Something extremely useful when you speak in English to express a lot of things, conditionals.
Oh, I'm interested in it, and I love conditionals. And today we're going to talk about zero and first conditional, as I remember, okay? So when do we generally use zero conditional?
Well, you use zero conditional when you are giving general or scientific facts and definitions.
Oh, you're right. And what is the form?
Well, you would construct the sentence in this way. If plus present simple followed by present simple.
Right. And now let's look at the example. If you have faith in something, you believe in something you cannot prove. So we have two parts here, an if part and the second part, and in both parts we have present simple, as I can see.
Because it's a definition.
Because it's a definition, as we said, right? Mm-hmm. Now let's move on and let's talk about first conditional. When do we use first conditional, Mr. Darryl?
With the first conditional, it's real or likely conditions in the present or future, and the results in the present or future.
Yeah, right. And what about the form? How can we form first conditional, Mr. Darryl?
Well, you start with the if, as always, then you follow it with the present tense, and then you follow it with the will plus the bare infinitive.
You're right. And here is an example. If you meet the manager, he'll tell you the news. Mr. Darryl, is this sentence about future, about present, or about past? Can you help me?
It's about the future.
It's about future, but in the first part, in if part, we don't have future, we have present simple.
That's right. And many people make a mistake, I've noticed. They tend to put the future in the first part, and that's a mistake that should not be made.
Okay, so it's correct to say, if you meet the manager, he'll tell you the news. Now let's look at the second one. If you are working too late, we'll wait for you at home. So in this example, in if part we have present continuous, and in the second part we have will plus infinitive.
You still have the future in the second part.
Okay. And the last one, if you have spoken to him, he'll come. So here in the if part we have present perfect, and in the second part we have will plus infinitive, right? So if we look at the sentences, are these things likely to happen, or are they hypothetical situations?
No, they're quite likely to happen.
That's why we use first conditional, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now let's move on. We can also use may, might, can, could, shall, should, ought to, and have to instead of will, depending on the meaning. Oh, it turns out that we can use modal verbs too, right?
You get some help from the modal friends.
Okay, and I think that we have finished with the theoretical part, and we have to practice, okay? So here we have sentences and verbs in brackets, and we have to choose the right tense for the given verbs. Okay, I will read the first statement and you will try. Are you against?
I'm ready.
Okay. So if you, then we have the verb mix, water and electricity. You, then we have the verb get, a shock. So what kind of sentence is it? I think that this is a common rule. It's a general fact which never changes. Mm-hmm. So there is zero condition here, right?
That's
so
right.
How would you say this sentence?
Well, with the zero condition, it would be present and present. So in that case, I would say, if you mix water and electricity, you get an electric shock.
Yes, you're right. And it means that in both parts, in if part and in the second part, we have present simple, right? Okay, now I will try.
Here's your sentence, Miss Thათია.
Yeah?
If she leave, the verb is leave, at 5 o'clock, she will be there by 7:30.
Okay, I can see that this is quite likely to happen. I mean, it's quite likely that she leaves at 5 o'clock. So I think that I need here first conditional, to use here first conditional, and I would say this sentence like this. If she leaves at 5 o'clock, she'll be there by 7:30. Am I right?
Very good, Miss Thათია, and you've done the right thing. A lot of people make that mistake. I want to say it once more. They put the will in the first part, at this part,
if part.
and you should never do that.
Yeah, so in if part, we should never use will. Okay, and the next one, I think that you have to try now.
I will. If you inform the board about the problem, they, here's the verb find, a solution.
Okay, and it's quite likely to happen, right? So if it is likely to happen, so we can use first
Will,
conditional
yeah.
here. So will. So how would you say the sentence?
If you inform the board about the problem, they will, or might, find a solution.
Great, you're absolutely right, Mr. Dero. And I think that we have finished with the exercise. We were quite successful at doing it, and we have to summarize the lesson now.
Well, Ms. Thataia, as you remember, we looked at the vocabulary at the beginning. This led us straight into the reading text, which was fascinating. Then we had a look at the grammar, which were conditionals.
მოდით გაკვეთილი შევაჯამოთ. დღევანდელი გაკვეთილი დავიწყეთ მცირე შესავლით, შემდეგ შევისწავლეთ ახალი სიტყვები, წავიკითხეთ ტექსტი, შემდეგ გადავედით გრამატიკაზე, გრამატიკაში განვიხილეთ პირობითი წინადადებები. ახლა კი დროა საშინაო დავალებაზე გადავიდეთ. Mr. Dero, I think that we have to talk about homework now. So what is the homework for today?
You know, a lot of people have different opinions about technology. They have criticisms and they have positive things to say. Here's your question that we would like you to think about. Write a paragraph about the advantages and disadvantages of technological advancement.
And there is much to write, I think, right?
On both sides.
Yeah, on both sides. So where can the homework be uploaded, Mr. Dero?
Well, I can send it to the address that's on the screen right now.
So, Mr. Dero, I think that we have come to the end of the lesson. We have to say goodbye to the viewers. But I think that we are going to meet them again next week with even more interesting topics.
I believe we are going to a new topic, and that will be fun to look forward to.
Yes, really. So, we have to say goodbye. Stay with us and keep on learning. Bye.
Until next time, goodbye.